Welcome back to my channel, guys. It's been a minute perhaps since I started an intro where you actually see my face. Usually I keep my face for the outros, but for today's video I decided to try something a little different. I've done this once and only once, and it was with one of my friends and it went well enough, but I'm gonna do an interview style video today, and I'm gonna be interviewing a witch, an eclectic witch. For those who didn't know, who didn't read the title. I hope you guys are gonna enjoy this one. Leave me a comment if this is a format style that you appreciate and or enjoy, and if you want to see me have anybody and if you want to see me have anybody else on the channel in this like interview style format. Anyways, enough chit chat. Here's the video.
Hey friends, I'm Jessica6, or if you're familiar with my humble little YouTube channel, you may know me as your sister in the craft, Jessi Moon. I am 26 years old, but I am a Cancer, which means I am quickly approaching my 27th in July. And to answer your first question, I can't remember a time that the interest wasn't there. You know, from a very young age, I believed that I was a witch. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, my father, and he was a very eccentric man, he came into my room and he told me one night that he was a witch. He told me that my mom was a witch, she just didn't know it yet. And he told me that I was a witch and that I had gifts that I just didn't understand yet. So already at a young age, I had this belief that I was this powerful being, and that just grew my curiosity for the magical, mystical aspects of life, the unseen. And I really took an interest to the occult and to all things mysterious in our world. And when I was in middle school, you know, I began to try to have rituals and do seances. That's when I started getting into divination and, you know, playing with Ouija boards, not properly, and exploring that. And then as I grew older, on spring break when I was 15, I was a freshman in high school, I had a very profound experience. And I would say that this one is probably one of the points. You know, there's so many times in my life that this universe has shown me how weird and magical and just how little we know about the universe and just how magical it really is. But if I had to pinpoint one moment in my life that was hugely impactful on why I knew that this was what I wanted to do, was when I was on spring break. Like I said, I was a freshman in high school, and I was on the beach with my mom one day. We were sunbathing, and there was a couple next to us, and the man, he began to talk to my mom. He offered her a cigarette, and he told her that he was a shaman. And he was telling us a little bit about his beliefs and his tribe, and he was amazing to talk to. And then he had asked us if we had seen any dolphins while we had been there. And I told him, no, we hadn't seen any yet. And he said, oh, I can fix that. And he walked down to the ocean and he stood at the edge. And he was waving his arms around up in the air. And I was at a distance, still sitting at the beach with my mom, just watching him, you know, giving him space to do his ritual. And he was waving his hands around and talking to the sky. And then he took his cigarette and made a big puff of smoke over the ocean. And no sooner than that, he comes back and he says they're on their way. And here come all these people running down the beach, yelling and cheering. And here come like 5 or 6 dolphins. They came clear out of nowhere, and they came all the way up to shore, and they just swam back and forth right in front of where we were sitting with that man. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen, and I was blown away. And so I knew that I wanted to understand more about that connection that we all have with nature and with each other. And as I grew a little older, I started to study more of numerology and divination. And unfortunately, later in life, when I was dealing with some trauma, I took a bad turn, and I turned to substances, and I suffered from a really, really terrible addiction. And I was able to, when I got clean, to turn to my craft and from what I had known and what I had been studying on and off my whole life. And I was able to utilize that knowledge to heal myself and to understand myself better. And I realized just how powerful it all was when you put it all together. And I wanted to share it, and I wanted to make that my path. And that was when I knew, like, that this was something more for me. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer. But on to the next question. You can be from another religion and practice witchcraft. It is controversial, especially for Christians in this day and age, but you're seeing more and more Christian witches come about, which I think is really awesome and beautiful, and it's inspiring people to look into their religion and understand more where it comes from, why they do the things that they do, and or being able to get a closer connection with nature and with source, whatever that may be. So to touch on earlier about, you know, do you have to be Wiccan to be a witch? No. Witchcraft, I like to think of it more as a way of life. You can belong to a religious group that is related to witchcraft, or you can just use witchcraft as a way of life. And if you also belong to another organized religion, you can try to apply some of the things that you've learned from witchcraft to your other worship, and vice versa. So I don't want anybody to be discouraged, because I see a lot of that within the witching community. You know, Christian witches can be a controversial subject just because there is a very tormented, you know, history there between witchcraft and the church. But I think that the craft is a way for people to take their power back, and I don't think that we should limit that from anybody. And you never know the kind of healing that this could inspire in somebody. So to tell them that it's wrong for them to do it would be wrong, and that's absolutely not what this is about. Another thing is people always associate witches with worshiping Satan. And a lot of that has to do first with Hollywood and demonizing witches and witchcraft, you know, the cackling old green hag, or, you know, they're always just such hideous, ugly characters when they are portrayed in movies. Very seldomly are they portrayed in a way that is flattering to us and what we're truly trying to do. It also gives people this idea that it's this big fantastical magic, so anybody who must call themselves a witch in the real world must be delusional, right? But we'll come back to that, because one of your other questions touches on that a little more. Another problem with that is the church and witchcraft do not have a good relationship. The church, you know, has really demonized anything of the like of astrology, of reading your horoscopes, of talking to psychics, or having any kind of readings done. All of those things are said to be evil and works of Satan or work of the devil, and that you should just trust their God. But, and even in Christianity and their Bible, it does say that their God is a jealous God. So these things were forbidden, and in that they became demonized and widely by society, between the church and with Hollywood. It just got being a witch just got a really bad reputation. You were either some crazy delusional person or you were worshiping Satan. There was really no in between, and nobody wanted to take the time to really find out what it was to be a witch. So that's why I think it's super cool that people are now trying to expand their knowledge on that. And if you're watching this, I really thank you for that. I think it's beautiful and I appreciate it greatly, and I know a lot of witches do. Now, I do know some witches. There are satanic witches, and I can't speak much on that because it's not my area of expertise, but to my knowledge, not even satanic witches worship Satan. It's more of a symbolic type of thing. There are people who work with deities. This is another controversial topic and one that would take a long time to explain with all its complexities. But there are some witches who will decide to work with deities from different pantheons, whether it's the Greek pantheon or from the Norse pantheon. Some even take from Christianity. Like I have seen people talk about having Lucifer as one of their deities. I know that this is not common practice for most. Most witches do not acknowledge the devil or Satan in the way that Hollywood tries to portray it to be. I do have a devil card in my tarot deck, which also is symbolic. He symbolizes sexuality, sometimes fertility. In pagan times, they had a fertility god who was a horned god. In Wicca, they have a horned god. And when the Roman Catholics came about and they were converting people and converting stories to fit theirs, the horned god then became Satan or the devil, and the story changed because, you know, he was related to fertility and sex, and they thought that that was evil. So the scripts changed a lot over time, but no, most witches do not acknowledge Satan. Most witches do not acknowledge Lucifer. Lucifer in and of itself is a Christian concept along with Satan, and most witches, like myself, do base their practice off of pagan traditions, and pagan traditions predated Christian traditions. Therefore, most just don't even believe in Satan or Lucifer. And please do remember that I don't speak for all witches. I am just simply sharing my knowledge on what I know of the craft. I know each witch is very different, and the craft is very unique to each witch and their own practice. But this is simply my experience and my knowledge, and if you have any other questions, I would be happy to elaborate on any of that. It's just a lot to touch on. It is upsetting when people confuse our pentacle or our pentagrams for a satanic pentagram. There's a lot of misconceptions there already. You can see my pentacle behind me. What it represents are the elements. We have earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. And when satanic practitioners use it, they would typically use the star inverted with the points upwards, like horns. But anytime I have a new guest come over and they will see pentacles throughout my house, they're like, "Oh my God, are you worshiping Satan?" I'm like, really? No, absolutely not. That's not what that stands for at all. And I'll explain it. But again, that goes back to Hollywood and the satanic panic, and that's absolutely not what the craft is about. We do not go to Satan for our power. We go to Source. We channel with nature, with our ancestors, with our guides. There are many different ways to practice, but I know that most would consider it completely uncommon practice to worship Satan or to use our pentacles as a way to worship Satan. That's not what they're for. And it is upsetting, but I understand where that comes from. And all I can do is try to inform people and to help them better understand what it really represents. Do we perform rituals? Absolutely. Of course we do. What would they look like would be hard to explain, because rituals can range, and they could be very basic to just casting a circle and, you know, working a bottle spell, or it can be more ceremonial, where you wear a robe and you have different tools, and it might be more of ceremonial in nature. There are many different forms of ritual, but rituals are very important. I would say almost everything witches do is ritualistic in a sense, from cooking to bathing to making candles and lighting candles and all of it, everything. And that's what I love about the craft, is it has just made me be really mindful and slow down and, you know, give things meaning, a different meaning that is more significant to me, and to appreciate things in a different way, and to be able to relate things in nature to things within myself. And I think that's a huge thing that rituals has taught me, is to be more mindful. And rituals are, like I said, a huge part of my day. If I take a bath, I like to do a ritual bath where I'll incorporate some moon water and some herbs and flower petals and candles. Or if I'm cooking, I have several herbs that I will use while I'm cooking. I'll only stir in a certain direction based on what I'm trying to draw in or to draw out. So everything I do now is very ritualistic, from the time I get up to the time I go to bed. But like I said, to explain just exactly what a ritual would look like would be very difficult, because they're so different for each thing. Not all witches will use tarot cards or crystals or any tools like that. Certain witches will take to one area, like for instance, you'll have space witches who like to study the transits of the planets, and the lunar cycles and the solar placement and all these things that have effect on us and our energies and our horoscopes and astrology, things of that nature. Then you'll have, like I said earlier, kitchen witches who like to study their herbs and incorporate them into their cooking. And you'll have garden witches who are all about the herbs and studying them and using them medicinally and holistically and in their spell work. There are many different areas of interest, and then there are some witches like me who are more eclectic in their approach and like to take a little bit from each practice. I like to study tarot, I like to study astrology, and I like really all forms of divination, and I love studying herbs, and I love to study folk traditions from my heritage. That's another thing that I do to make my craft unique to my own. So there are many different ways, and it's different for each person. For each witch, they're going to have their own methods, their own areas of interest. What interests one may not interest another. So no, you don't have to worry about buying a bunch of tools or how you're going to afford getting started, because it doesn't have to be anything but you just sitting with yourself, sitting with the universe, and deciding what it is that interests you the most. So no, you don't have to use tarot cards, you don't have to use crystals. Those are all just personal choices based on what you feel called to. The ideas of covens are very real. There are covens, they exist, but not all witches belong to covens. I don't belong to a coven, and I know many witches who do practice in solitude. It is all about trust within a coven, and you have to have perfect love and perfect trust for all your brothers and sisters within your circle. So you have to, that can be hard, you know, and to find a group where you feel safe enough to do that. And you might not want to wait to start practicing until you do that, or you may have no desire to ever do that. You may just want to practice in solitude, and you can totally do that too. Covens are not necessary for the craft, but they are definitely real, they definitely exist, and they can definitely be an asset in their own right. Okay, I just got upstairs, got changed into my sweats, and was editing these clips, and I realized I totally forgot this question, and it's a very important question. And that is, do witches believe in real life magic? And the answer is yes, of course we do. But not in the way that Hollywood makes it seem. And there are different levels to this as well. There are witches who are more scientific witches, and they believe that the magic of a spell comes from when you make a spell and you put your intention into it, and you're being mindful about all the things that you're putting into it, and then you place it somewhere where you can see it. It is subconsciously motivating you. And then there are witches who believe in the law of attraction. They believe in using our energy and shifting our reality. And I would fall into the latter, most definitely. The law of attraction is a very powerful thing, and I use manifestation a lot. But it just, again, depends on what calls to you, what is unique to you, and what works for you. Whatever it is that works, if it's working, then that's magical. And I think that the definition of magic may change from witch to witch, but I believe we all believe in the magic behind it, or otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. It has a positive effect on our lives, and that is why we feel so passionately about the work that we do, and that's why we continue to do it. So absolutely, witches most definitely believe in magic. It is safe to practice magic as long as you're safe about it. As long as you're doing your research, you're not jumping right into hexes and curses and exchanging energy and things of that nature. You're not just jumping right into doing divination with Ouija boards or things like that without studying. You have to do your study, you have to do your research, and I don't mean, oh, I saw this on TikTok earlier and I think I want to try it later tonight, so you read a few things on Pinterest about it and then you give it a whirl. No, I mean extensive research, checking multiple sources. For me, the library has been a great resource as a witch. There's always really great books, and if they don't have a book that you need, you can have them order it for you, and it's a great resource, a great way to make sure that you're informed and that you're being safe. And as long as you're doing that and you're taking these steps, then it's absolutely safe to start. As long as you're doing your research and you're being safe and you're educating yourself, just like anything else in life, absolutely, it is safe. Now, do I believe in black and white or dark and light magic? No. I believe that you definitely can use magic for the greater good, and I believe you can definitely use it to do some damage. But I don't believe that makes it good or bad. If anything, my craft has taught me. It has taught me balance. I'm constantly saying that on my channel. It has taught me of the duality that lives within all things. One thing we see in the craft a lot is nature. In our universe and life, there's this constant duality of male and female, or negative and positive, light or dark, good or bad. It is not good or bad. There's always going to be opposing forces, and they're both very necessary for their own reasons. So to say one is good or one is bad is just naive, because it's not so simplistic. There's so much more to it. There are times when that spell that you think is so bad could do really good in the right hands. So I don't believe that there is good and bad. I believe that it can be used for good and bad, but I don't believe that whole dark magic, light magic thing. I believe that we need to find balance. And sometimes life may call for one form of magic versus the other, and that doesn't make one good or bad. Not in my opinion, at least. It makes me sad how society has outcast witches. It is cool and exciting to see witchcraft growing in popularity, but it also upsets me at times because at times it seems some people are doing it for more aesthetic purposes and less for the actual beneficial purposes that the craft has to offer. And people will make a mockery out of it in a sense because they don't understand it and they're misconstruing information and then passing it along to the next person, and then that just only feeds this whole idea that we're all delusional. It's important to come from an educated point when you're talking about these things that are already so misconstrued by so many. So that can be upsetting. And it is upsetting how it's so acceptable for people to go around and talk about Jesus and things like that. But if somebody asks me what I believe in and I tell them, without trying to understand where I'm coming from or asking why I believe the things they do, just automatically assuming that I'm evil or delusional, and that hurts. That's upsetting. So, and like you said, there are some people who won't even date witches because they think that they're crazy or that they might get hexed or poisoned. So there's just a ton of, you know, misconstrued information out there. There's a ton of misconceptions, and it is upsetting, but it's awesome now that there are more and more people like you who are trying to learn and educate themselves on what it is, even if it may seem strange. Just keeping an open mind and trying to hear it from another perspective, that's really beautiful, and it's really cool, and I respect you a lot for that, so thank you. What does being a witch look like in 2021? I think it looks like you and me. I think it looks like my 10-year-old daughter who just set up her first altar. A woman in her late 50s who is just now discovering the craft and stepping into her power for the first time. Men seeing other men in the practice, understanding themselves and healing themselves and stepping into their power. I think it looks like a lot of different things because there's no one face for it. It's so diverse, from different cultures to regions to ages and belief systems, and it's just, there's so much. It's never ending. It's just evermore for everyone, and I think it's really beautiful. And I really hope that maybe this video will just be the start for some of you, and you'll keep an open mind and you'll keep exploring this world and wanting to learn more about it, and you won't stop here. You'll keep asking questions and you'll keep an open mind, and the more you look, the more you'll start to see. You know, seeing is believing, and this world is magical. It is powerful, it's vast and endless, and so are we. We are powerful beings. I think we are in a time right now where we are all so disconnected from true reality, from real organic conversations and relationships and feelings, things that aren't just, you know, manufactured emotions and forced conversation and saving face online. That when we start to explore something as powerful as ourselves and the universe, and the more we dig into that, the more we crave something real, that real connection, that connection with ourselves and with each other and with nature. And I promise, if that's what you're looking for, you can 1000% find it here in the craft, whatever it is for you. Witchcraft is so diverse and it is so powerful, and I just really urge you to let go of some of those preconceived notions that Hollywood may have forced onto you, and to really just explore it for yourself, because I think you may be really surprised at what you find. So thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope that you were able to keep an open mind, and I hope that this just maybe sparked an interest in some of you, and that you'll keep exploring. And I hope that you will check out my channel, like I said, Jessi Moon on YouTube, where I make videos about my craft and explaining and breaking things down, and from spells and hexes to common misconceptions to just everything. It's a little bit of everything. I call it my melting pot. And it's all about wellness and my story, my journey, and my craft, and just trying to share it with everyone else. So I really appreciate you taking the time to listen, and thank you so much for having me on. And until next time, bless.
It's been a minute. Listen, I'm gonna keep it, I don't want to get too crazy, right? I don't want to get too personal, but I'm gonna keep it above 50 with you. It has been a minute since I initially started my channel being front cam all the time, and I used to Twitch stream. So I was a little bit more used to being in front of the camera. But lately I haven't, because my videos haven't really necessarily needed that, and I was kind of okay with that, because I've gained weight during quarantine, which doesn't help. But it's a little strange, it's a little weird being in front of knowing that people are gonna see me as I speak. A little nerve-wracking for some reason. I got all camera shy now, and now I have to readapt into the idea that perhaps I might have more face cam videos. Only if you guys want me to be front and center face cam. I usually keep them for the end anyway, so. But yeah, I don't know why I went on this little ramble fest. Massive thank you to Jessi Moon. I will 100% leave her channel in the description, if it's not already there at this point at the filming, but it doesn't make sense. But anyways, but definitely go check her out. Amazing. Honestly, I didn't really know too much about the sort of world of witchcraft. I mean, I had a little bit of an idea, but never too in depth. Obviously, it's a world that I'm not super in. Not that I'm not into, but I'm not around. So a lot of things I didn't really know. And her channel, honestly, a massive sort of eye-opener for anybody who's interested in any of the topics she's mentioned, or just witches in general, witchcraft, whatever. Definitely check her channel out. And even if you're not, it's honestly really interesting. I think it's fascinating. But maybe that's just me, I don't know, maybe I'm just a little weird. But I think it's interesting, I think it's fascinating, I think it's cool to see somebody who is, you know, living a different lifestyle than me, and who has just as much to offer, and perhaps even more than me, myself, and I, and my weird kind of bubble. So definitely check out her channel. Again, it'll be in the description. Massive thank you again for everybody who follows me, who subscribed to me. I post very sporadically. Initially, I started posting every week. Nowadays, I post sporadically. It's now summertime. Summertime is here. Maybe I might start posting a little more often, but my videos require a little bit more editing lately, so maybe not. So you might see me tomorrow, you might see me in a week, you might see me in 3 months, I don't know. But please continue to support and subscribe, even if you will not see me in 3 months. I will try to keep it more consistent with that. Anyways, that was pretty much everything that I can think of that I needed to say. Oh, I have a podcast channel now with my friend Nick. The second episode is coming out. If the episode is already not out, it will be coming out soon after this video. So definitely everything will be in the description if you want to follow the podcast. We do a lot of commentary, just kind of commentary pieces on pop culture that's happening right now. So if you're interested in that realm, that bubble universe, follow that. It'll be a fun time. So thank you everybody for the massive support. Thank you everybody who has been following me on my journey in the YouTube sphere for now. And I will be seeing you guys in the next one.